Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Flash. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, in this episode, we have Carver sending Ragtime after Joe to assassinate him, and the whole situation with the car. And luckily, I was wondering, I was like, oh, is Barry going to save him last minute? It's like, no, Joe, because Joe probably could have hit his watch to be like, Barry, come save me. But it's like, to be fair, he knows Barry's kind of in that complicated space right now where it's like he has to save his speed and stuff like that. So obviously, like, Singh was telling Joe to back away from this case because he's like, the fact of the matter is, this isn't something like let someone else handle this and stuff like that. But Joe is adamant about taking down Carver because he wants to use Sunshine, to kind of roll over on Carver. But even when he tries to do that, it doesn't work out because Ragtime's there. I mean, to be fair, like, he instills loyalty in people because it's like the moment you prove not useful or a traitor, he's going to have you killed. So she's not stupid enough to turn on him, and Ragtime was hiding in one of the boxes, and it was pretty impressive. Like, who knew he could use his powers like that? Is the fact is when Joe was shooting at him, he was twisting his body around. That was like, and that maneuvering, like, if for one, it's just kind of like he's a contortionist, everything, so it makes you weird. Obviously, it's like a meta-human version of a contortionist, but it's still like kind of like when you hear like the bones like cracking and stuff like that. But him twisting like that was a very Monkey D. Luffy move. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing this to anime. It's a One Piece reference. If you've never seen One Piece, Luffy's kind of a rubber man. He does that where he can twist his body like that, dude. It reminded me of a Luffy move. And the fact is, he grabbed the bullets and he like flung them right back at him. And Barry's rushing in. He's trying to grab the bullets, but the last one's like too far because Barry didn't push his powers because he's trying to like not go too nuts with it, but he wasn't able to catch the last bullet and Joe get hit. And obviously, like, it turns into this thing of like, obviously Barry wants Joe to kind of just stop, but Joe's like, you want me to just kind of like hide? Like, I need to, like, I can't let Carver win in this. But for Barry, it's like, if you don't stop, you're going to end up dead. It's like, because obviously for him, it's like, I got to make sure I protect my family. Like, but Barry's like, yeah, but we don't want you to die in the process of it, especially for Barry, because it's like, he couldn't push himself. He's so concerned about, saving his own speed, because it's like, if he burns away all his speed now, it's like, what good will he be to the city when the next threat comes? So it's just, a lot is on Barry's shoulders. At the same time, you have Ava telling fake Iris, like, oh, we need to make Barry Allen burn up all his speed because she's gotten adjusted to this place. Iris was able to come up with a plan. She's like, oh, we could get Barry to phase through, like, because of the way his molecules work and stuff like that with his ability, he could phase through the mirror and save us. And Ava's like, yeah, give me time to regenerate. Like, using the mirrors, it drains. It's like, okay, she told me all we need to do, wipe Barry Allen of all of his powers, and then we won't have to worry about. And even fake Iris is like, why are you even concerned about the Flash? And she's like, I'm not. This is about, me and my husband. So it's like, okay. And fake Iris, putting him on a guilt trip of like, Barry, like, you should supposed to do whatever you can to save my, and it's like Barry already feels like he's not doing enough, and he's terrified, that he might fail and something worse might happen. And he's like, don't worry, I'm gonna do whatever it takes, to save Joe when if the time comes again. But sadly, at the same time, it's like Ragdoll comes after Cecile. Now there's even that whole complicated thing with Allegra and Nash, because Allegra hasn't forgiven Nash, and he's kind of like, what am I supposed to do? It's kind of a lot of complicated, like, quote unquote, pseudo dads and daughter relationships going on, because or children relationship, because obviously there's everything between Barry and Joe right now, but now this little bit between Nash and Allegra. It is still that thing of like, for her, it's like whoever claims to care about her lied to her. So we don't know if Nash has ever taken the time subsequently since getting depossessed. Has he taken the time to explain what happened to the other Allegra and stuff like that? Because, but even if he did, she's probably like, I'm not trying to be a replacement for the daughter you lost. I'm not here to kind of alleviate your guilt or something like that. But it's like, who knows if he's actually told her, like I said. So there's that. They get attacked by Ragdoll, and he captures Cecile and is holding her ransom, and Barry rushes him and Joe to, go rescue her. And for him, it's like he's willing to burn away as much of his speed as needed to, like, if he needs to burn it all up to save Cecile, then they will. So he ends up having to go up against Ragtime, and got a little Devil May Cry 5 in my head, Ragdoll, because the fact of the matter is, you can tell, like, he's still not obviously fighting at full force, because he could have probably phased through Ragdoll's hands at that point in time, but it's kind of like, that's probably phasing probably burned even more of his speed, so it's like, you know, he's kind of having to go like a little low speed against this fight. There was even that little thing, and I think that kind of symbolizes a lot, is like the fact is at the beginning they're playing Pictionary, and he's trying to draw the Eiffel Tower. Probably like, if normally he would have just like used his speed, but he had to go slow, and it's like, you were like that for so much of your life, and you've basically been the Flash for the past 6-7 years, so it's like, once again, like, kind of having to reserve yourself something that was almost like second nature to you, you kind of have to adjust for, you know? And so that right there, and that moment at the beginning right there was enough to kind of set the tone of, like, you know, like, what the situation's like. And obviously, it's like, basically, Cecile's connected to a bomb. There's a device, and it's like, you need to pull a certain switch, because Nash pulled it up and like, okay, you pull out this switch, but it's like, no, because all the wires are green, and it's like, you can't, you know, it's like, which one is it? So to make sure that, you know, Cecile was okay, because that's just who Joe is, putting their lives in before his, he ended up switching places with her, and it accelerated the time. It, like, they lost a minute in that, you know, switch, and now Barry's there, and he's like, I'm not going to leave you, Joe, but Joe's like, get Cecile out of here. So he dashes Cecile away, and he tries to rush back to Joe, but even then, it's like, the time is, it's against the wire, and it's like, okay, I was like, is Barry going to get there in time? Luckily, Joe pulled the right wire, but obviously that's still disheartening, because in that moment, it's like, I wouldn't have gotten here in time. Like, you know, because of the, it's that complicated thing of like, I need to go full force, but I can't, because if I do burn away all my speed, I'm going to be completely useless. Like, this city will be unprotected. It won't have a Flash. I won't be able to protect not just the city, but the people I love, my family and my friends. I won't be able to protect any of them. So it's a very particular superhero position for Barry to be in. Like, he's never been in this like position before. Yeah, he's been without his speed before, but now it's a situation of, you literally got a radar to show you how much of your speed you have left. You're literally looking at like, man, the fact is this doesn't look good. It's a constant reminder of just how little of your own speed you have left. I mean, who knows? Like, because they talk about it a little bit, but Cisco's not really that close to making a manufactured speed force. So now it's like, it's such a desperate situation to find yourself in, and you know. But because of this, like, Joe decides, like, I am going to go into witness protection. He was against it at first, but that all changed the moment, because he realized, like, under these circumstances, like, him being around is just going to put Cecile and the rest of his family in danger. And obviously, it kind of has to be, like, a quickly done thing of, like, oh, we need to do this quick. And so he ends up leaving without being able to say goodbye to Iris. He is able to say goodbye to Cecile and Barry, but still. And then we see Sing. I'm like, are we going to find out that Sing's bad? And we totally do. Because it turns out, because at first I was like, how is this going to work? Are you actually working? Because like, I've talked about it, like last time I was like, there's something about Sing that felt off. Like it just didn't seem right. And then we find out, the reason why is because he's been replaced by a fake Sing, and it's like, okay, so it's like, at what point did he get replaced? Was it in between episodes when I was already kind of feeling like, because I brought it up during my review, so I was like, I don't know, man, like, because they were like, oh, who's the insider, like, that's actually working for Carver? I was wondering if it was Sing, but it's like, no, he's an insider for someone else. So it was like, Sunshine that was the insider because of her abilities and everything, but it's like, oh, dude. I was like, okay, so now it's a situation of, you don't know who else is because I legitimately almost forgot that Camilla's a fake too. I legitimately didn't think about that till just now. I was like, right, Camilla's a fake too, because the only time we saw her in the episode was at the beginning when they were playing Pictionary. It's like, right, literally two fakes sitting side by side, and it's like, well, now we know Sing has been replaced. I mean, that's the thing, we don't know who else is. I mean, obviously it's people in this circle who kind of figure things out, who, you know, it's like, it's strategic, but it's like, we still don't know the full scale of like how many fake people she's got running around Earth, you know. So there's that side of things. There's also the situation with like Ralph bringing Cisco into the fold of like he's still tracking down Sue because Sue's been hitting some banks and stuff like that, so he knows exactly the next place she's going to hit. So he brings Cisco along, and it's like, oh, are they going to have waffles? And Ralph being like, they better have waffles. So I love them kind of, because Cisco also feels a little guilty because he's like, because he wasn't here to help Ralph with this whole thing. It's like, yeah, I know how hard that this whole investigation's been for you. So. And I love that while he's hacking, he runs into January, and it's just kind of like this thing. At first, I was like, oh, is she some thief or something here to kind of, steal from the place, and she's going to use Cisco's access as a kind of backdoor access so she could steal. Like, I was wondering about that. And just him being kind of nervous around. It's like, oh no, I'm checking this. She's like, oh really? What are these green lights for? He's like, this is. And it's like, oh, you're not really good under pressure, Cisco, which should be fair. But then Ralph immediately recognizes January. It's like, oh, I remember her from like before. So they go and find her, but it turns out it's not actually her. It's Sue. Apparently, Sue's a master of disguise. That's interesting. And it's like, oh, he's like, actually, you did a really good British accent. It's like, where'd you spend time at? And I think it's at England. And she's like, actually, he's like, really? He's like, oh, look at you fancy, huh? And I forgot what she made some reference, and it's like, oh, she's like, me too, and then Cisco's like, me three, and it's just like he's acting like in this thing between them, he's acting kind of like the comedic third wheel in this situation. I'm like, I love that, but sadly Sue ended up getting away, and it turns out like the drive she was like, looking into all this like into the bank systems and stuff like that. And it's like, he's like, oh yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's just only that she has access to, $7 billion because she had access to like all the bank's infrastructure and stuff like that. So it's like, but when they track her down later on, Ralph's talking to her, basically it turns out her parents are being blackmailed, extorted. So they have to basically dump a certain amount of money into an account and stuff like that. And obviously it's like, it's all connected to Carver. So it's like, oh, so all of this is heavily connected in that regard. Well, which shouldn't come as no surprise because Allegra's sister, because I keep blanking on her name, whatever the case may be, her sister recognized Sue, so it's like that isn't too much of a like, oh, so like obviously like that's a thing, that's a connection there, so it shows that there is history between her and Carver. But he was suggesting like, oh, did they have some bad stuff that he has against them? But she was like, no, you want to say whatever you want to about me, say it about me, but don't bring my parents into it. They're good, So, and now it made him realize like, wait, everything that you've been doing, you've been looking into these banks because you've been investigating Carver on your own. This is about helping your parents out in the grand scheme of things. So it's like, so it turns out she's not as bad as we might have thought she was. So that's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be the thing of like, she's kind of a hero that kind of skirts the line a little bit. I thought it was also adorable, that line of like, oh, what are you two, married? And they're like, gross. And they both looked at each other because the fact that they had an immediate response makes you wonder, is like marriage not something either one of them is potentially interested in the future, just on a personal level. But also it was almost, I think it was almost a look of like, wait, why would you say it's gross? No, why would you say it's gross? Me probably reading too much into it, but I thought it was interesting because, because Ralph sees that she is a good person, and he's trying, because like for him, he gets it, like the fact that she, because he will, he's like, oh, you should have met me like 2 years ago. I wasn't like the best person either. And obviously we know that. And it's like, Ralph's like, oh, you probably would have liked him more. But she's like, honestly, this good guy superhero thing. And she's like, it's tolerable. But basically she gives Ralph a diamond and she's like, you'll find something interesting about this. I've found something interesting about it. So it's like, tying into the whole Carver thing, I'm wondering what it is that he has on her family that he's extorting them, and I guess this has to deal with all that what he's up to. Because we finally get the confrontation of like, okay, so she drops off, gets a mirror delivered to him, and it's like he's shocked to see her, but now it's like, okay, so we can only assume he's the reason why she's in there. Either when she got stuck in there, he trapped her in there because it seems like they basically have two different perspectives on how, it seems like kind of like Eva has her one way of wanting to save the world. He has his own, which is weird considering all the bad you're doing, but maybe he's so in his own once again, you're not the villain of your own story. Because he's like, oh, I have a vision for the world. It's like, maybe for him, he thinks he's going to do some good. Or maybe he knows he's being bad, but it's like, oh, I'm going to shape the world the way I want to. I'm not going to shape it the way you want to, Eva. And so it's either like, the moment Eva got her power, she can go in and out of the mirror. And she probably showcased it to Joseph. And he was like, oh my God, look at this. And at one point, rather than killing her, because actually he does love her, and despite the very complicated relationship they have, which is interesting because like it's like this relationship is going on while there's also the whole Barry and Iris thing going on, that I think for him it was probably simpler just to remove her from the equation. So he probably did something to her to make it so that she could come out the mirror. Or it is a situation of she naturally could come out the mirror after she went in there. And at first it was a thing of like, oh yeah, like back and forth, like they were happy, they made it work. It's like, I'll do whatever I can. But then eventually he got to the point, it's like, actually, no, you just stay there. I'm going to do what I want to. Now I'm able to do it without your interference or your judgment, so... And he's kind of like, oh, you can't touch me, which is interesting. You say that, literally considering we do know she has at least 3 agents out there that you're unaware of, because I don't know if he knows how her powers fully work, that she could, maybe it took some time, because it seemed like Iris was the first person she did that to. Who knows? There might have been others, but I'm assuming, to be fair, that room was closed off, but like the moment Iris kind of stepped in, she kind of opened up that world to Eva. So who knows? She might have been watching behind the scenes the entire time. Like, I don't know how that, the full scale and scope of everything kind of worked in that regard, but who knows? Iris might not have been the first. Maybe Iris was, but whatever the case may be, she kind of has like a little bit more of a foothold in this world. And then, kind of the terrible icing on the cake in this situation is Iris chewing into Barry, being like, how could you not bring me to my father? The fact of the matter is, he's like, there was no time. She's like, for you as a speedster, a moment can seem like a lifetime. The fact of the matter is, you could have raced and got me and brought me back. It's like, fine, my dad. He's like, I literally have no idea where he is. The fact of the matter is, she's like, he's gone 30 minutes? You can go get him. And it's like, oh, this is so shitty. And then it gets worse and worse because she talks about the fact of the matter is, Barry, you promised to protect him, but, kind of chewing into him, being like, this is what you always do, Barry. You always make decisions for everyone, and everyone else has to suffer the ramifications for it. Whether it's you going Flashpoint, going into the Speed Force, or taking Nora to the future, and she's just kind of like, I'm done. And he's like, wait, we can work this out. She's like, I want you to leave, because she knows the more she pushes Barry, the more he's going to try and like push himself to kind of. Because obviously the more like riled up his emotions get, the more of his power he's burning off. But also she knows like if she riles him up enough, he'll eventually do whatever it takes to burn off that power, like to kind of make things right between him and Iris. And it's just like, it sucks, because it's like, no, because he's thinking like, oh no, like he's like, no, we're a team, and she's like, you're my home, and she's like, not anymore. And it's like, it's actually interesting. I want to say, who was it? It's actually funny because I think Josh McCouga, I think it was like on Collider Live one time, was talking about the fact is that he's like, oh yeah, like, because obviously he doesn't watch the show, and he's like, it's his prerogative. Like, it's not his thing. Totally okay. But he had said this thing one time of like, oh yeah, like Iris and Barry weren't going to make it. And even, like, I think Roxy was like, what? She's like, you don't think they're going to stay together? And it's just ironic that it kind of happened like he said it would. Obviously, it's not the real Iris, but still, that immediately went in my head of like, oh, like, it's interesting. Like, Josh said this, like, a while back. I just thought it was just, like, the funniest thing to kind of see it. Well, not funny. Well, funny in that regard, just heartbreaking in this moment. Because you're like, oh, it's a big, very, come on. No! Because obviously, Barry and Iris, they're the team, it's just, this is like one of the cornerstones of true love in the Arrowverse. So for it to be like this, and, also what this is going to do for Barry, because, Barry's going to be off his game in general, it's just like, And so, obviously, like, 2 antagonists running amok, doing their thing, Eva doing her thing. Obviously, Barry's going to end up burning up to his speed to the point he can't do anything to help the real Iris. Does beg the question, where's the real Sing at? And the real, because we know the mirror gun was used on the real Camilla, but it's like, was it also used on Sing as well? So is that why? Because I was about to say, like, would putting him in the mirror be, and it's like, no, I guess the mirror gun is going to be like the solution to like replacing people from now on, potentially. Iris is just kind of an exception because she had to be like, well, the first one brought in. Maybe she's serving her own role there too, but it's just like, I guess you can't get rid of her now like you can like Camilla or Singh. So regardless, a lot of interesting things to kind of keep in mind as we go forward. I'm really interested to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.